You've done things, real things, things that took effort, time, sacrifice, things that other people would look at and say, that's impressive, that matters, that counts. And yet, you go to bed at night with the quiet, persistent, completely irrational feeling that you're behind, that you haven't done enough. Who you are right now with everything you've built is somehow still not enough. Even after everything you have survived, you still feel lacking. And the worst part isn't the feeling itself. The worst part is that you know it doesn't make sense. You can see the evidence against it. You can list your accomplishments in your relationships. You can look closely at your personal growth, and none of it touches the feeling. None of it fills this void running quietly in the background. It just keeps saying more, better, not yet. If you felt this, here's the most important thing you need to know. This is not a motivation problem. This is not a character flaw. This is not proof that you're behind or broken. You are not fundamentally lacking something that other people have. This is a wound, a specific, well-documented, neurologically real wound. It was written into you before you had any choice in the matter, and the science behind it will completely alter how you see yourself. Let's start with what's actually happening. Psychologists call this the never enough wound, a chronic internalized sense that no accomplishment can produce lasting sufficiency. It doesn't matter what you achieve. The goalpost moves, the feeling stays. Wright, a licensed trauma specialist, identified its root with precision. The never enough wound is rooted in what psychologist Carl Rogers called conditional positive regard, an early environment where love and acceptance were contingent on meeting specific standards. Being enough was something you had to earn. It was not something you simply were. It sounds simple, but the implications are profound. When a child grows up in an environment where love arrives conditionally, where approval follows performance, where affection comes after achievement, the child's developing brain does something incredibly logical. It draws an equation. Worth equals performance. Being enough equals doing enough. Love equals output. And the terrifying thing about equations is that they don't stop running just because you've grown up. They run in the background of your adult life, quietly measuring every decision against a standard that was set before you were old enough to question it. And here's the part that makes this so exhausting. The standard was never meant to be met, because the function of conditional regard isn't to create high achievers, it's to maintain control. The child who keeps trying to earn love that is always slightly out of reach becomes the adult who can never quite believe they've earned enough, who works harder, achieves more, receives the praise and immediately discounts it, reaches the goalpost and finds it has moved. This is what Dr. Kristin Neff at the University of Texas calls the achievement trap. Her research found that people whose self-worth is contingent on external performance don't experience success as fulfillment. They experience it as temporary relief, followed immediately by a new threshold. The validation is real, but it doesn't penetrate. It touches the surface and slides off, because it's trying to fill a space that external validation was never designed to fill. Now, here's the neuroscience, and this is where it gets genuinely shocking. Researchers studying the neuroscience of imposter syndrome at Stanford and Harvard found something counterintuitive. The more successful the person, the more intensely the not enough feeling often operates. A 2026 Forbes analysis explained exactly why. The brain's self-evaluation system maintains what researchers call a self-model, an internal map of who you are, what you're capable of, and what you deserve. When this self-model was built in an environment of conditional regard, it gets calibrated to a baseline of inadequacy, of not quite. And here's what the brain does when evidence arrives that contradicts the self-model. It discards it. Not consciously, not deliberately, but the brain, loyal to its internal model, does something researchers call confirmation bias in self-evaluation. Positive evidence gets attributed to external factors: luck, timing, a generous audience, other people not seeing clearly. Negative evidence gets attributed to the self, to who you actually are underneath everything. So the self model stays intact. The not enough belief survives every success because the brain is actively routing around the evidence that would disprove it. KPMG research found that 75% of executive women report experiencing imposter syndrome. A 2025 systematic review found prevalence rates ranging from 27% to 100% across different professional groups. Across more than 165 medical students studied, 85.5% reported moderate to intense imposter experiences, despite demonstrable competence. This is not a minority experience. This is not a weakness of certain personalities. This is one of the most common and least discussed human experiences there is. But here's the part nobody talks about, and this is where it gets personal. The reason you can't think your way out of this is the same reason you can't argue yourself out of a physical injury. The not enough belief isn't a thought. It's a schema, what cognitive neuroscientists call a maladaptive cognitive affective schema, a deeply structured pattern that operates below the level of conscious reasoning, shaping perception before your rational mind even gets involved. You can know intellectually that you are enough, and feel viscerally that you are not. Both things can be true at the same time, because they're operating in different systems. The knowing happens in the prefrontal cortex. The feeling happens in the deeper limbic structures where the original wound lives. Trying to fix a subcortical wound with prefrontal reasoning is like trying to stop a bleeding cut by thinking very hard about it. So what actually changes this? The first thing, and this requires the most fundamental shift, is to stop trying to achieve your way out of it. This sounds obvious, but almost everyone with a never enough wound is doing exactly this, working harder, achieving more, waiting for the day that the accomplishments are large enough that the feeling finally stops.
That day doesn't come, and it won't come, not because you haven't achieved enough, but because achievement was never the cure. Achievement is what the wound uses as fuel. The more you achieve trying to outrun the feeling, the more the feeling has to work with. Dr. Kristin Neff's research across 2 decades found that the single most effective intervention for the never enough wound is not accomplishment. It's self-compassion, the deliberate, practiced act of meeting your own inadequacy with the same warmth and understanding you would offer to someone you love. Not fixing it, not arguing with it, not achieving past it, meeting it. The second thing is what psychologist Winch calls emotional first aid. When you catch yourself discounting a success, attributing it to luck or timing, that's the wound speaking. The practice is to notice this happening and ask specifically, what skill did I use here? What did this actually require of me? Each honest attribution is new data the self-model cannot easily dismiss. Over time, the model updates, not because you forced it, because you stopped filtering the evidence. And the third thing is to locate the equation and question it. Worth equals performance. Being enough equals doing enough. Love equals output. That equation was written by a specific environment, in specific conditions. It was never actually true. It was a rule that one environment operated by, and you are no longer in that environment. You were not born not enough. You were taught to feel that way. And slowly, not all at once, not in a revelation, but in the quiet accumulation of moments where you catch the equation running and choose a different answer, the feeling begins to change. You already are enough. You just haven't had the evidence delivered in a way your nervous system can receive yet, and that can change. If this is making sense, subscribe, because this is what every video on this channel does. It gives the things happening inside you a name, a reason, and a way forward. The next video is waiting for you.